What up, everybody? Another episode. Eric, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm hanging out here in London, England.
Yeah.
Loving the lockdown.
Loving the lockdown. You guys, we were just talking offline, you guys are on full lockdown.
Yeah, you can go out to the grocery store. You can make a single trip out. You can do a run. But other than that, you're risking a police fine. So
you can go once a day, once a day to the grocery store? Or is there?
Yeah, once a day.
Okay.
So, but you have to, it has to be either for that. And then even if you go out for a run, say, you have to maintain a 2 meter, like a 6 foot distance.
Got it.
With everyone. So.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's crazy times.
Crazy. It's insanity. And you say you're in the UK. Are you British? Because you don't have a very strong British accent.
I don't have it. I shouldn't have any, I hope, because otherwise I'm just a complete chameleon. I'll lose all sense of identity. but it's funny though, because, so I'm half American and half Norwegian.
Okay.
But here's the deal. So I grew up in Chicago from the age of 5. And if I'm on a plane, if I'm speaking English, with someone on the way to, say, Chicago, and they say, well, where are you from? And I say, well, I grew up in Chicago. And they look at me and they go, no, you're not. Your English sounds slightly off. So they think I'm a foreigner.
Okay.
When I speak Norwegian, I have a slight accent. So they think I'm a foreigner. And then, of course, I'm living here in London and I'm a foreigner. So basically, I have no home.
Bro, it's the story of my life, man. I'm a half black Jew. Half black, and my mom's the Holocaust surviving Jews. Her parents were, and my dad's black, right? You don't know me. It's me and my sister, and that's it. So I feel you.
Yeah. So,
speaking of planes, you were telling me you have a crazy plane landing story.
Yeah. Well, this was really the opener from the eye opener for me.
Okay.
So about 10 years ago, returning on a plane back to London, and I had the whole 10 years prior just absolutely worked my ass off at McKinsey and Company, helping build up Skype before we had an exit to eBay for about $4 billion, and then building my own business.
Did you get some of that $4 billion?
What's that?
Did you get some of that $4 billion?
Yeah, of course.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
That was part of the reason, that I joined him early on. Right. Okay. So working kind of Elon Musk style. Right. And, I'm on a plane trip back. As soon as the cabin doors, I noticed something was off. I could feel some pressure, in my arm and in my chest. The plane starts to ascend. That pressure starts to turn into pain. My left arm goes completely ice cold. I say to my buddy next to me, Lewis, I'm like, Lewis, something's not right, man. I'm like, feel my arm. He feels my arm and he's like, holy crap. It's like, it feels like it's been hanging in a freezer.
So it's just you. I thought you were going to tell me about a plane crash. Okay. So it's you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And he jumps over, runs to the stewardess. Stewardess asks if there's a doctor on board. Luckily for me, there was one. Doctor comes over, takes my vital signs, and says, we need to emergency land the plane. I think he's having a heart attack. Plane lands in a small town in France, and there's a waiting ambulance. Runway's all shut down. I get taken straight into the ambulance where they administer nitrates to open up the arteries, increase the blood flow, whisked off to the local hospital. And, as that ambulance sped off, I just remember looking up into the eyes of the French paramedic staring down at me. And I just said, please don't let me die. I have a 5-year-old son. Cause when you're in a moment like that, all your to-do list, it's goes out the window. If suddenly you have 5 more minutes to live, it's not like you're going to be like, oh man, thank God. Would you mind passing me my laptop so I can fire off a few more emails? You're going to be wanting to surround yourself with your loved ones. So that was the wake-up call. That moment, that next day, I woke up in the hospital just feeling lucky to be alive. And
why did you have a heart attack?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I was so the doctor reckons that they stopped exactly that from happening.
So you didn't have one?
Well, sorry?
You didn't have a heart attack?
No.
Okay.
No. So I had a really high blood pressure up to that point for the whole year prior to that, had been in and out of the hospital, checking on my heart and making, and the doctor kept saying the same thing, that you gotta de-stress, you gotta relax, because your blood pressure is way too high for your age. And I just, I was 34 at the time. I felt invincible. And I thought, well, yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't happen to somebody my age.
Can I ask, what was your blood pressure?
It was so when it was high, it would be around 166 over, 100. And
so really high.
Yeah.
Not exactly. Like 130.
No.
Yeah.
But check this out. Now my blood pressure is usually around, say 110 over 65.
Medicated or no?
Yeah, just like regularly, like.
But medicated, you take medicine for blood pressure?
No.
So this was all stress.
Yeah. All stress.
Oh, fuck.
And I got my blood pressure down through a lot of research, de-stressing, and then figuring out some like basic natural remedies that you can take that are, equivalent in strength to like blood pressure pills, basically.
Talk to me about
that. Sorry?
What did you do?
So what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like getting it down?
Yeah. Because a lot of people suffer, right? I suffer from high blood pressure.
Yeah. So I'm just going to pop these out actually, because could you still hear me fine? Or?
You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm realizing that I'm not hearing you as well. So here's the thing. If you take 5 tea bags of hibiscus tea every morning, organic hibiscus tea, 5 tea bags every morning, you just take it like it's a pill. You take that, it's like a holy trinity. You take that, you take 3 or 4 tablespoons of organic cold milled flaxseed, and then just add 1/4 teaspoon turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. So you drink the tea, you have that, flaxseed with the turmeric and the black pepper and some almond milk, and it just lowers your blood pressure. It's it's all anti-inflammatory.
So when you say the hibiscus tea, you just make a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's all.
So you don't you don't eat the leaves. You just make the tea.
Just make the tea. You don't want to take too much hibiscus actually. But yeah, just make the tea. And it's, it's work for that together with, getting 8 hours of sleep and making sure you exercise,
right.
well.
Right.
Yeah, it had a magical effect on me. So I woke up in the hospital. And I thought,
right,
okay, I got to get my stuff together here.
Sure.
And then that started this journey. I started this obsession with how do I perform at a high level, but without breaking down. Right. So I just consumed like study after study related to high performance, and did a coaching certification with the High Performance Institute, and did another certification with the guy who runs the Stanford University's Behavior Design Lab. And I just started to apply all this stuff to myself, to my leadership team at the time. And then eventually became what I do today, which is, high performance coaching for CEOs, entrepreneurs, leaders, basically helping them scale up both themselves and their companies, but without sacrificing their health and relationships. So kind of taking a holistic approach.
Yeah, because I think we're all kind of getting a bite of that right now, right? Because it's like, I like to grind. I like to go charge. And, the universe is saying, yo, slow the fuck down.
Yeah, well, right? It's all about, everything's about the hustle this, hustle that. And, going back to the whole blood pressure point. And
can you sit back a little bit?
Yeah, and going back to to the whole blood pressure point, for anybody who's listening, who's like a fired up person and they're after it as an entrepreneur or building a business, I highly recommend that you get your blood pressure checked, because people don't realize it's actually the #1 killer in the world.
Right.
And it's called a silent killer because you don't know that it's high. And typically you don't know until it's too late. And then you almost have a heart attack like I did, right? And they have to administer nitrates to open up everything again. And you don't want that. So
yeah, I'm sure that wasn't a fun experience. You wouldn't repeat that.
No, definitely not.
like you were saying, like, I don't know. I have a similar thing when I fly. I get more nervous when I fly without my family, because I'm like, fuck, man, if I leave, if this goes down, fuck. Right. And when I'm with my family, like, I'll still get nervous sometimes, like in bad turbulence or whatever, but I'm like, oh, well, I guess we all go together, you know?
I've never felt lonelier in my life than when I heard the doctor on board say those words. And you're 35,000 feet in the air, as about as far, away from help as you could possibly imagine. But then it started a good transition for me. So I started to think about, well, it can't just all be about work. If it's all just about work, it's like you're sitting on a one-legged stool. And if you picture that, right, it's going to be wobbly. You're going to fall over at some point. You got to get the health, and you got to get, the relationships together as well. So then,
what do you do?
So I literally took my phone one day and I thought of 3 identities, 3 like best versions of me on the health front, on the wealth front, and on the relationship front. I gave each of those a name. So health, I call world fitness champion. Wealth, at the time I had it as world's best CEO. And then for relationships, I put world's best husband and father. And then I went into my phone and I set each of those as an alarm, because you can go to alarm, you can change the name or the label of it, right? And then I timed that alarm to go off at the time of day that was most relevant, based on that segment, to kind of like power that segment of the day. So at 6:30 a.m. every day, an alarm goes off. It says world fitness champion, because that's who's going to start exercising. 9 a.m. world's best CEO, because that's who's showing up at work. But the real game changer for me was, and I know this doesn't apply at the moment because we're all at home, but it was the one that went off at 6:30 p.m., world's best husband and father, because that would prompt a question in my mind: how would the world's best husband and father walk through that door right now? And that just changed the way I showed up, because prior to that, kids might ask to play and I'd push it off. Let's do it on the weekend. My wife might want to talk about something, and I'd say, the time's not. No, I wouldn't say that the time's not right, but I just say,
busy.
We talk about it over the weekend, or we do that over the week. So it's always pushing it off. But when you're kind of like living super intentionally like that, and that's who you're trying to be, then when you keep making mistakes like that, of course, you start to think, is that how the world's best father responds? Is that how the world's best husband responds? So that started, a lot of change. That spearheaded like the health improvements for me, work improvements, home improvements, all of it.
And how did you, but that's not what you're teaching other people, correct?
No. So that's part of what I teach other people. So when I'm helping somebody, I'll sit with them and I'll say, okay, what does the best version of you look like? On not just in the work front, but also the health and the home fronts. And we define that, and I'll help them come up with their identities, and they can kind of set their alarms and come up with some goals and behaviors that, relate to making whatever improvements they want to make there. And then I also help them by looking at their company. So, how do we scale up their company? How do we get the strategy right? How do we improve the productivity? Get the people right. Make sure that the cash flow is right. And then, as a typical, you would have worked with lots of coaches with your background. The big thing is providing that camaraderie and challenge, along the way, so that they feel like they have that support and accountability. And what was your experience like working with coaches? I mean, that must have been like a big part of your development.
So I love my coaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
The coach aspect, and I'm a coach now, right? Because I have fighters that, are better than me, trying, we have 3 guys, in the top 5, you know, a couple guys inside the top 10. So, in the world. So, that relationship is really, really important because especially in fighting, for example, it is the heart attack, right? Like every time you walk, it's like, oh shit, this is it. Right. Like this is a fight and this person will kill me. Like if that's what, like they won't do it intentionally. Right. But they would kill you. So the people that you want to walk with you, it's, if you don't trust them, it goes badly. Right. It can't go good. If you don't think that what you're going to, when you get that minute in between the corner, you know, if they don't know what they're doing, a clear advice, you know, prepared you well for the battle, then it's a fucked situation.
Yeah. And that's kind of the situation, you know, we're in now with you know, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you got your own business. It's wartime, you know, it's like, it's so much so I'm about to launch a new program. Actually, it's called Wartime CEO. And it's essentially asking, well, do you want to be the phoenix or the ashes? You know, how do you navigate these challenges?
These are tough times and no one's done it, right? That's the problem.
Right. Yeah. And how do you come out stronger as a result? It's, you know, the stuff like this. And again, I'm sure you could totally relate to this. People got to recognize that these stress opportunities, these are the opportunities to grow. You don't go to the gym, right, and just stare at your bicep and it grows, right? So you go, you apply stress to it, it recovers, it grows. And this is the ultimate stress, but it's sort of like, you know, it reminds me of Nietzsche as well. You know, that which does not kill us, you know, makes us stronger.
Yeah.
So
I always like to say, so like my thing, I always end everything with find your power, you know, like I'll end the podcast today with find your power. But you don't find your power in heaven, man. You find your power in hell. You know,
exactly.
You find your power in hell. Like it's not fun. Like there's no, like I just got off the Peloton. Like we were talking about exercise and you were running steps, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like my heart rate's at 170. And I think like I'm considering whether or not this is too much, right? You know, I'm a 40-year-old guy. I can't sustain a heart rate. I'm almost 40. I can't sustain a heart rate of 170 for that long, right? Like I was 160 to 170 for 80% of the ride. Like,
wow.
Like, yeah, am I this? Oh God, you know, but it's hell, man. It's hell because like we're actually in hell right now. Yeah. So little practice,
you know, and it's trial by fire. And if you can survive this and if you can come out stronger as a result of this, then, you know, this is the definition of, Nassim Taleb, you know, his book, Anti-Fragile, was all about the whole point, right? It's all about
great book.
You know, people think, oh, I need to be resilient to this, you know, but resilience is just like, you can take a beating. Now you need to be anti-fragile such that you become stronger as a result of the beating.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I love to.
Yeah. That's why I love to say we teach, you know, we teach my schools, we teach anti-fragility, you know, I talk because it's so much different than toughness. Right.
Well, that's resilience, right? Yeah, tough. It's like, I can take a punch.
I can take a punch. Yeah.
Versus you punch me and I come back stronger.
Strong. Yeah. You know, and it's such an important skill. Yeah. It's such an important skill to have it. But sometimes the problem with it is like, I'll give 2 examples here. Like with what you just gave, like, oh, he punched me, I want to punch back right away. And that's not always the answer. Right? That's not always the answer. That's not anti-fragile. That's like, that could just be dumb toughness. And like, for example, in my industry right now, tell me what you think about this. I see a lot of people making this martial arts industry. Right. And, people are asking their students to keep paying, which we are too. Like, man, if you can afford it, please, because we're shut down. Right. And a lot of schools are making this argument that we will pay you back when we open. And I'm like, how are you going to do that? Like if you, even if
need money to live
100% of your people stayed, right. And you open at 100% of your money. If you're going to now that was what you were working on before, but now you're going to cut that to pay people back. Like, how you going to do that?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the other businesses that I started was a chain of restaurants here in the UK. And basically because I was missing Mexican food from Chicago. So I started a chain of Mexican restaurants. I was at Skype for a while helping build that up, but then started this chain of Mexican restaurants. And as as we all know, restaurant industry, hospitality, travel industry, these industries are the most torpedoed by this whole thing going on.
Of course.
And we can't just let all of our people go, because then who do we have to, help us reach the summit again when things turn, right? So that would just be suicidal. I mean, we benefit from the government stepping in though and offering support. So they're basically covering like 80% of the wages while you have people, at home. So that's like a huge benefit.
Obviously. So that's what you guys are getting, 80% coverage.
80% coverage.
Is there an end date on that?
They haven't really talked about any end dates, but I think that's because nobody understands, well, when is this going to end? we got these, what's called the PPP loan, the stimulus package that just came out. We have this thing called the PPP in America, right? Where we get to say 2.5 times our payroll. And that's all well and good, right? And like, it's going to make me put everyone who's paying, it's going to make me put their memberships on hold, right? Because that would be that wouldn't be cool to get that much, but still but you have to hire 80% of your staff back, well, what if it goes longer than 2.5 months? Right? Like, then what do I have to do? Be like, I'm going to restart your membership and not have service. Yeah, exactly. But, but people also, though, they have to use this as an opportunity to think differently, to think, well, what is my business and service, and what elements of that could I be delivering virtually? How do I get online? Because that's another way to be anti-fragile, right? So, you talk. I would
think anti-fragility is the ability to adapt and change too.
Yeah,
right.
I think so, because as long as it's in service of you coming back stronger, right? So, when you said the guy punches you, you don't hit back right away, because maybe you're actually going to go into a semi-recovery, a little bit of recovery while you scope out, well, what is the best way to go in? Because maybe the best way to go back in is not with a punch for a punch,
right?
And that's the equivalent of that's the equivalent of not sitting here thinking, how do I go back doing exactly what I was doing? Instead, it's like, well, how do I think differently? I know a lot of coaches, for example, who are taking all their services completely online. They're at least offering something rather than nothing. I heard of a story of a guy, he makes window shutters. His company makes window shutters. And now what they're producing is plastic masks for, hospital staff.
Right.
Retooled his company. And
fuck yeah,
selling like $50,000 a day or something.
Fuck yeah.
So
yeah, you have to adapt and adjust. Look, I'm not going to become. You like, but in the same realm, like you were saying, right? You're not going to just all of a sudden become like a tire maker. No. What do you do? What do you do best? So we've been able to go the whole virtual route. But tell me more about this whole wartime CEO thing that you're getting ready to do.
Yeah, so I typically coach CEOs, entrepreneurs, leaders, and usually on a one-on-one basis. And I just draw from my McKinsey experience at Skype, my own businesses, and help them, as I was saying, scale up themselves and their companies, while giving them some camaraderie and challenge along the way. But the thing is that we're in crisis mode right now. And there's lots of people who I normally, wouldn't be able to serve because they can't afford, the one-on-one coaching. And so I started to think, well, how do I reach a larger audience and how do I make it relevant? And so that was the wartime CEO idea. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it's basically how do you navigate these challenges, emerge stronger as a result. And it's going to be a 2 to 3 day virtual summit. And we're going to cover, cash flow, power of identity, as I was talking about to you earlier, productivity for both yourself, for your team, how to get better at execution, talk about communication. I'm going to talk about anti-fragility. How do you translate all of this into strength? How to be more decisive, how to have difficult conversations, all the key things. These were the key. A lot of this, while it's super relevant right now while we're in the crisis, was also personally relevant for me, because when I started my own company, it's one thing to start as a founder, it's another to scale it, as a CEO. And so I voiced a lot of, my concerns with my own leadership to my coach. And then we created this own CEO boot camp for me, and I kept working on improving. And then that culminated in that CEO of the year recognition. So it's about taking all of this and creating a sense of, community for people trying to struggle through this, but let them upskill at the same time. A lot of people have, a lot of extra time on their hands right now. So, it's good opportunity to scale up, right? And
yeah, you better come with a new trick, right? Like it's like, exactly. Like going back to the fight reference, just to make it super simple again. If you show up at the fight with the same bag of tools that you had in the last fight, then you have a problem, because everybody saw that bag of tools, right? Yeah. Like you better have something new. And I get it. Like a lot of times for a lot of us during the hustle and the bustle of work and all that stuff, we don't have time for that, because that's the fight a little bit. Well, right now we're in training. And now you better have a new tool at the end of this to show, to use, to give to somebody. How
about you? Like, do you, when you think about new tools, for you and your business and, your different ventures and everything, what's some of the exciting things that come to mind for you?
So for us, we were literally just about to launch a digital course. So for the last 2 years, I was working on, we call it Easton Online, where we have 7 schools, and we're probably one of the only, we're probably one of the only schools that does that has 7 schools where they all run the same. Like we have systems like a company, right?
Right.
And they're all owned by me and my business partner as the majority owners. But we are not the CEOs. We have a CEO, and I started this Easton Online thing. It's all of us together still, but I'm the one working on it. And we were literally, just about to launch the week after, we had to close everything down, and everyone ran out of, everyone all of a sudden had no money. But that's what's coming. So we're just doing all of this digital stuff. We are getting ready to have an app, right, where we're going to coach, where we're going to have from a coach's point of view and the athlete point of view, like, hey, you're the coach. This is how structure your class, like this,
Yeah, perfect.
And things, and then digital courses, right? So we're going to have a subscription-based model, right, which is going to be the daily content from the coach, for the coach and the athlete. And then we're also going to have a course-based model, right, where you one-time sell, where it's like, look, this is how you do your front desk. This is how you do this. This is how you do that, right? And it's just it's exactly what we do.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. People got to be looking for what's the way to think differently. How do I turn this into? Because in 2008, when this happened before, lots of people were wiped out, but it wasn't like all that wealth disappeared. Somebody else picked it up.
Right.
Right. So if you're kind of sitting there thinking, I'm just going to get wiped out, or I'm going to just stay neutral and hope for the best, well, there's somebody probably right around the corner with a shovel who's going to scoop you up in a second. So, I think of it when we're in a situation like this, for me, it's a zero-sum game. And so, you gotta, that's why I'm thinking, people got to be in, a bit like wartime mentality, because, resources and opportunities are going to be more scarce, and everyone's going to be trying to climb out of the same hole.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you could say, well, yeah, but we all have to help each other, and that's a little bit too competitive. And I'm not saying we all shouldn't help each other. I'm saying we all have to help each other, precisely to climb out of the hole. But when we're helping each other, it's like, for what cause? It's like, to sit there in misery and commiserate, or is it what are the new opportunities? How do we take advantage? How do we, explode out of the gates, again, stronger as a result? And that's what I'm talking about. That's the way people got to be thinking. And that's the sense of community I'm trying to create, is who are the people out there who are going to say, you know what, screw this shit. I don't care what's happened. I'm going to learn from it all. I'm going to develop new stuff and come out way the hell stronger.
And I totally feel you, because I had to start doing webinars. I was going to literally in a week it would have been 2 weeks ago now, but from when all this craziness hit, right? I was supposed to do my first webinar, but I'd never even done one before. So now I'm just doing webinars for people. And look, they're not the best. I get that, because it's all over the place. We have, but I'm gaining the skills to do really good webinars. So at the end of this bullshit, I'm going to be a fucking ninja at hosting a webinar.
There you go. So it's another point. It's like, when you get to the end of this, what's your trophy? What's your trophy going to be? Is it going to be that you watched a bunch of bullshit series on Netflix?
Ozarks is pretty good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it going to be like, that's all you've done, right?
Right.
Or are you going to be like, you know what? Screw this. During this time, this extra time, I'm going to come out building a business, building a brand, building something new, or just adding a new element to your business. Like you just said, it's like now the back's against the wall, right? You got to figure out webinars. You got to build that webinar funnel into your new business and figure it out. And there's no better time to do that than now.
Yeah. And just engage with people. A guy hit me up after my webinar, and we were super honest on the webinar. We were like, we're going to spend 30 minutes on COVID, and then we're going to spend the other 30 minutes on some actual skills that you need once you're open again. And this guy hit me up and he was like, look, I was kind of a little disappointed that you actually did this other skills thing. I thought we were just going to talk about COVID. So I was like, look, man, I'm sorry. Like that we didn't communicate that clearly. I thought we did, but obviously we didn't, but let me help you. Right. So now he and I are emailing back and forth. What the fuck? I'm going to get really good at helping somebody, and I'm going to do it for free. We're not charging this guy. It's free. So because I know when we come out of this, I'm going to have this fucking skill.
Yeah. And there's a cool tool that people can use. Have you heard of Whoop?
No. Tell me.
So WOOP.
Okay.
The Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan. And this is, it basically takes positive thinking, the wish and the outcome, but sanity checks it against reality. So if you got a wish to come out of this stronger, and then your outcome might be my cash flows not just protected, but it's increased, I have new products, whatever those outcomes are, then you think, okay, well, what are the obstacles? What are all the things that could get in the way of that happening? It could be micro stuff, not putting the time in your calendar, for example, to learn how to do webinars, right?
Right.
So then it doesn't happen, right? Or not putting the time in your calendar to test it before you go live, and then something happens and it's all messed up, right? But you
Dude,
think...
holy shit, I'm going to interrupt. Did you hear what happened with Zoom lately? You had to put a password in today, right?
Oh, that hit me earlier today. Yeah.
Bro, this motherfucker on my webinar, on my first, he Zoom bomb on my first webinar, right? On my first one ever. This guy just jumps on and just starts screaming the N-word. That is screaming it. All of you are N. And I'm just like, oh my God. But thank God I had my tech guy on with me. Right. So he knew how to get the guy off. I would have had no clue, right? No clue. He would have just had the meeting. I would have had to cut the meeting because he wasn't going to stop.
Yeah, no, that happened to me earlier. And I had a coaching call and the client was like, what's the password? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So apparently that's a piece of software
Yeah.
where it checks like 100 Zoom rooms a minute. And then it gives the user the software, the first room that isn't password protected, and then immediately puts them in.
Yes.
Yeah. So Whoop, wish, outcome, think through your obstacles, and then develop a plan for each. So how are you going to, mitigate the risk in each? So it's like, oh, I don't have time to figure out how to do I'll run out of time for learning how to do the webinar or designing this new product. Well, then schedule it into your calendar, right? Schedule the learning time in there. But I use that for big things, small things, just about anything.
That was really good. I think I'm going to, that's stolen.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, man, I wanted to come back to. You said the power of identity. And, so what are you talking about there? Like what,
So this is a story in and of itself. So I used to be a horrible procrastinator. Like I would procrastinate so badly that it would be like this. I'd sit down to work, and let's say it's 9 o'clock. I start working on this presentation. 9:17. I'm like, in my email. Now I'm reading a couple of emails. 9:23. Now I'm web browsing. Now I'm browsing something related to the emails. I'm researching something. Now I followed another link. Then my notification on my phone goes off. I look at that. Oh, who's this? And then put that down. Then I go back to my cup of coffee. Coffee's cold. And I got to go reheat that now.
Right, of course.
Right. and then I get to 10 o'clock. I've worked a total of 17 minutes in the presentation that I wanted to work an hour on. And then now I have a meeting to go to. And so it was just constant distraction and procrastination. And so I ended up reading this book called The Now Habit by a guy named Neil Fiore. And I thought the book was amazing because it described me. And I was like, okay, this guy can help. So I emailed Neil, and it turns out Neil is this psychologist who's super focused on overcoming procrastination. So I ended up doing 16 sessions with him to kind of transform from a procrastinator to a producer in his language. And one of the things that he said to me that really stuck with me is that it's much easier to switch to a new identity than it is to change yourself. And so the power of identity-based change is that, going back to that 3 alarms example, so at 6:30 a.m., when it says World Fitness Champion, I start every day and I got a dream team of 3 people helping me out. I got the World Fitness Champion who's heading up the Department of Health. I got the world's, best coach who's kind of leading the charge during the day. And then I got the world's best husband and father who's showing up and taking care of that role at night. And the power of identity is that, for example, if I'm thinking I'm not going to go to the gym, well, yeah, but that's not how the world fitness champion thinks. So you go, you do the exercise. And then, weird shit happens. So you'll be doing an exercise, you'll be on the 8th rep. And I got this announcer voice that goes off in my head, especially if I'm thinking I'm not going to hit the 10th rep. But it's something like, and watch what he's about to do next. This is where the world champions separate themselves from the rest. And then, then it's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, because it's all up here.
Right.
It's all in the head, right? It's all mindset. And so that's what it is. It's about recognizing that we all want to improve, right? We all want to get better. Everyone wants to do this. But rather than say, I'm going to be better, health-wise, work-wise, relationship-wise, 3, 5, 10 years from now, why don't you just define what best looks like for you right now? Give it a name. You can put it into your phone like I do and have it, go off to remind you at the right time of day. And then just step into being that, right away, right now. The other thing I do is a thing I call them champion proofs. So
when you say identify, you just have 3 identities. and they don't blend at all, right? Like when you have the dad is not coming up
each other.
Right. Yeah. They've never met. And then the dad and the world fitness champion have never even seen each other or been in the same room.
No, but they're like me at my best in each of those three pillars, health,
right.
relationships. And I talk, so I have a book coming out, The 3 Alarms.
Okay.
In July, where I talk about, using this as a powerful way to, kind of step up. But the other fun thing I like to do is, if you think of these 3 identities that you set for yourself as like the champion versions of you in each of these areas, then, well, what's the one thing that you could do in each area with each identity, powered by each of those identities in the context of that day, relevant for that day, that would evidence that you were being whatever that identity is, or kind of prove you were doing it. So for example, like for my world fitness champion or whatever, you use for your identity, then I might have, 700 calories cardio on the bike, because that's what I want to burn in an hour. Or I might say it's 10 sets of 10, inverted leg press, at a certain weight.
Right.
Right. So you just pick that one thing. You
define success.
Yeah, that would prove that champion version of you with that particular identity is showing up in that day. Rather than like a myriad of things. Like, what's the one thing? So you get like 3 kind of like number ones each day that you can pursue.
For sure. Yeah, totally. You know what your finish line is.
Yeah.
Right.
And exactly. Because people wonder, okay, well, why am I not becoming all that I can be? Well, hang on. Have you defined the areas of life that are important to you, number 1? And then number 2, what does best look like for you in that area? And then number 3, great. How would that version of you attack this day? What's one thing you can do that kind of proves you're stepping into that?
Right. Define the goal, and then define and success. And then what did you do today to get towards the goal? What did you do? What was one step?
Exactly. So that's what I mean with like the power of, identity and then you can have, you can play around with it. Some days when I show up at work, it's not me, it's Elon Musk.
Right.
Because that's like the intense focus I want. Right.
Well,
Sometimes go ahead.
I'm not Joe Rogan, and I don't have a doobie for you to smoke on a podcast that's going to sink your stock. So, sometimes when I go to the gym, it's like, it's not world fitness champion. It's like, it's David Goggins in the gym. Yeah. Did you read his book?
Yeah.
It was good, right?
That's amazing, because it actually gave me a value that I kind of always remember and use when I'm thinking of my health identity, especially when I'm in the gym. And the value is pain seeking. Like, I go into the gym, not like fearless. Like, I don't care about, pain doesn't hurt me, because that's like a resilience approach to pain. No. I want to go an anti-fragile approach to pain. Like, where is the pain?
Where is the pain? I feel that too. Like, I want to die on that Peloton when I'm like, I'm like, okay. Like, my wife is like, why do you wear that heart rate monitor? Like, what do you care? And I'm like, baby, I want to see 173, Yeah. I was like, that's how I know that I'm working, Yeah. And the other thing I really liked from that book was his 40% rule, that when you think you're done, you're at 40.
Yeah, exactly.
You're at 40. You're not even at 50. You're not even halfway, motherfucker. Right?
Yeah.
You're not even halfway.
Exactly. And it's like, it's like if you're in the ring, it's like the moment where it's like the reaction from the crowd is like, I don't even understand how he's still standing up. Like, you just keep coming back. You just keep coming back.
Because you can. It's this that makes us not.
Totally.
It's this, like, man, I have a buddy, Brian Stan, and he was a U.S. Army vet, special forces, I think. Yeah, maybe no, Marines. Sorry. And I mean, like, look, he was in war, frontline war, right? So, in my opinion, the only thing greater than the cage is actual combat. You know, and he disagrees a little bit. Like he thinks the cage is a little harder. But I don't see how. So anyway, but anyway, dude,
it's life or death.
Yeah, there's bullets. There's bullets in one.
Yeah.
So, dude, he had this fight, bro. He got the dog shit kicked out of him. Like the absolute, and like the whole fight, not like knocked out, just beat on, right? And then at the end of the fight, and he gave everything he had. It wasn't like he was half-assing it. And then at the end of the fight, he gets up and he goes, damn. Yeah, he knew he lost. But most people, when they get beat up the way he got beat up, they're just like, oh God, me included, right? Like me included. But he wasn't there. And he's not in any better shape than me. And he's not in any better shape than anybody else. This was calmer. Like throughout the whole fight, he was just assessing. You know, there was no like, oh my God, this is happening to me, which is so easy to do in a fight, right? Like when you start losing, when you start getting beat up, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, is easily takes over. Yeah. But because of his wartime, right? Because of his ability to assess, right? What is it? The plan for the obstacle, like in your whoop thing there, right? He had a plan for everything. And he was able to just switch on a dime all the time. And like, dude, it didn't stop him from getting his ass kicked in that fight, but he could have done it forever. Like if you had to guess, like if there was no time limit, I wouldn't have bet on the other guy. That guy would have gotten tired eventually.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the tortoise and the hare. Right?
Yeah.
And he would have won.
And he would have won. Yeah, he would have been able to take the beating, withstand it all, and then still be there.
And that's how people should be thinking right now.
Yeah.
That they are him in the ring, that they're going to sit there, they're going to take the beating, and they're going to, just figure out how to be, again, like I said, do you want to be the phoenix or do you want to be the ashes? Because there's going to be two camps, and choose the one that you want to be in.
You can make that happen. We're about to wrap up here. I always like, this is the first time that we've ever met or talked or anything. Yeah. So I always like to ask sometimes, you obviously have a big platform, you are well known, top 30 CEO. I'm in America, and I'm not super famous. Why? What is your reasoning? And you don't have to toot my horn here. I'm not asking for that, but why? Like, there's got to be a reason that you came on the podcast, right? And you like, why would you? What made you say yes?
So when I went and looked at the podcast, I loved the whole idea of it was like this trial by fire, feel to it, and that's been my life. Like I echo that. I believe it. It's why you and I have talked about anti-fragility so much today. It's why we've talked about how you have to have a strong mind. It's why we've talked about, how do you gotta up your, identity to up your game. It relates to, it nearly being lights out for me when, before they administered those nitrates, to kind of open things back up. It's all of that. For me, with my coaching, as I'm sure you are with yours, I don't coach from the ivory tower. I coach from the trenches. I coach as being someone who does the exact things I coach others to do. And you only get that by going through the fire, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's the, hell, man, you gotta go. We run from it, and we're afraid of it. Look, I'm afraid of it probably still. And I don't know if you are or not. Like I hate, like it sucks. Like hell is awful. No one wants to go again. If you've been, no one wants that again. It's fucking terrible, right? It's fucking terrible. But I know that if I survive,
you can survive it.
I can survive anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the feeling I got, and that's why I wanted to come on to kind of echo that ethos and that message.
Man, I appreciate it. I enjoyed the talk, man. Thank you for doing it, especially during these crazy times. I know sometimes people have been all over the place, right? So,
yeah, cool, well, man. I really appreciate it too. And let me know if I can help in any way in the future.
For sure, man. Let's stay in contact. I mean, I think phone numbers would be tough, right? We're across a pond, but I have your email, right? The email that you've been, yeah. So I will keep in contact. I'll let you know when this comes out there. I'm kind of starting a new thing because I had a bunch in the hole already. But they weren't very relative with COVID and stuff, right? And I don't want to air this in a couple of months when COVID might be all done. So it might be sooner than later. So I'm getting on that today. So
cool. Cool. And if anybody wants help, building their business or scaling themselves up, or then please get in touch.
How do they get in touch with you?
Reach me at my website. Just go to Eric with a C, Partaker.com.
All right. EricPartaker.com if you want some help, or if you want some business advice, or probably just some life advice, right? Because business advice is life advice. They're not different.
Yeah, business and life coaching, it's all wrapped together for me.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. All right, man. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, Eric.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. And as always, you know what this is. You have a unique power. Your mommies lied to you. You're not special, but you are unique. Go out and find your power, not Eric's, not mine, not whoever else is in the world. You find your power, and that is what's going to bring you to the top. So have a great day, everyone.